So today is October 14th. I'm here with Fariha. Today I'll be asking her questions about herself, her passions, and who it is that she is as a person. So, before we begin, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, so I graduated college about a year ago in econ and data science. Not that that's everything about me. And I'm currently applying to grad schools, and that's sort of the path I'm taking. And I don't know, I'm from SoCal, been here my whole life, and figuring out my career and everything right now.
I mean, what would you say is the career that's calling your name the most?
I think it'd be cool to be a professor. I'm not sure what I would be a professor in exactly yet. I think that's more of a bigger question for me. But I think it'd be really cool to be a professor and teach, and specifically teach older students, because I don't think I have the patience for younger students. But it's cool to teach really niche knowledge, I feel, to older students who will appreciate it. That's something I would love to do and be there for the students.
Okay, I respect that. I
Yeah.
respect that. Then, now that we know a little bit about you, I can go ahead and just start asking questions.
Okay.
I'm kind of curious, like, what would you say your upbringing was like?
Yeah, I was thinking about this question. My upbringing, I would say it was not too strict, but not too free form. I would say somewhere in the middle, but I know in the middle is like kind of vague. So I would say maybe leaning more, not necessarily on the strict side, but protective side from my parents. I'm an only child. What is it called? Yeah, I'm an only child. My parents, it's not that they didn't let me do things on my own, like hang out with, or like they didn't let me hang out with friends or play outside by myself with the friends alone or anything like that. Like I was allowed to interact. Well, I mean, yeah, they let me. It might be more common in maybe my parents' communities, Asian communities, to not let your kids hang out with friends too much. But that wasn't really a thing I had to worry about. They didn't really prevent that, but they definitely had a focus on education in my upbringing and just having good character and a sense of responsibility and ethics, and anything I wasn't allowed to do, it was usually because they really were just looking out for my best interest. They were just trying to protect me, like either my health or safety, or yeah, protecting my health or safety and just looking out for me. I forgot exactly where I was going with that, but that's kind of what I was thinking. But oh, and money. Anything else I couldn't do, it was either because, again, it was in the interest of my safety or my health, or we just couldn't afford to do it, like sports, for example, growing up. But especially joining club teams and stuff that are expensive, that's kind of what I mean. But yeah, I don't know. So that's where I would say it was, like in the middle of like strict, but not too strict, and more on the protective side.
So you'd say that, based off of what I heard, that your parents were really good at being able to balance the push and pull of worrying about their child.
I think so. I think maybe they struggled with it at times, I'm sure. I don't remember exact instances, but I know it happened. I can kind of almost feel it, but I don't really remember them because they were so long ago. But I would say for the most part, that they did a great job though.
Over the years, what would you say was the most important lesson that they taught you that you still use to this day?
I do think the lessons they taught me about having good character, I think about how they always wanted me to keep my word and be as responsible as possible. And that's affected every aspect of my life. So, school, academics, work, commitments with anybody, friends, my parents, like relatives. If I say I'm going to be somewhere, like for a job interview or hang out with a friend, plans that I made weeks ahead of time, that's something they always actually really respected. And wanted me to respect. I think that's something they instilled within me, to always kind of make your commitments, to make your responsibilities, or live up to them, and put in your best effort and everything. And yeah, I think those are the lessons that they taught, instilled in me. Oh, and just like, again, having good character. So I guess what I mean by that is just having that sense of responsibility and ethics. Even the idea of character in my head is when you behave well, even if no one is watching. As in be responsible, be moral, whatnot. And I think that's something they instilled in me.
You came out pretty good then.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Thank you. I like to think so.
Especially because our experience directly shapes who we are.
Yeah.
Would you say that there was ever a time where you felt like you were acting directly like your parents from what you've seen and learned?
Yeah, I think so. I would say most recently, I would say with my job, I think I currently work at a resort, and it's not the highest paying job in the world, not to shade it or anything. I'm not mad about the pay. I'm just not making $1 million a year or anything. And now that I'm an adult, I feel I have a better responsibility of money. I've had jobs before, like throughout high school and college, but it was never too serious making the money because I just wasn't thinking about bills and having to pay them. But now that I'm a bit older and I'm thinking more about, like, okay, if my parents weren't here, how would I pay these bills? Do I have the money to support myself in that scenario? I feel like I just think about that scenario more than ever, and I feel like I'm acting more like them and just being more financially responsible and saving it and resisting the urge to spend my money on random little things all the time and just trying to be as responsible as possible with it. I feel like that's what makes me feel the most like them, is just being so conscious of that and understanding why they were so financially responsible growing up, even when I didn't want them to be sometimes,
I guess, thinking about, how growing up you have these perspectives of, oh, I want you to spend, I want you to like do this and that. And, having to accept whatever path it ended up taking.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I would ask kind of like, what key moments in your memories would you say really helped you discover who you are?
I do think there's little things with my parents, like my mom telling me that she could tell I like to teach, and that kind of influencing me to be professor, like wanting to be a professor ever in the first place. That's actually something I think I wanted to do for a long time and then gave up on, and now I'm back to. So that's kind of funny. It kind of comes back to that. Other memories that I would say make me who I am, maybe just working, having any kind of work experience, working my high school summer job at my friend's dad's photo company. That was a really transformative experience that I really treasure because it taught me a lot about responsibility, and I also just had a lot of fun doing it with my friends. So that was really cool. Maybe it kind of stuck with me, the idea of work hard, play hard, having a balance, hanging out with my friends, but still working really hard. I would say hanging out with my friend, with you, actually was very also transformative because I think it made me think more deeply as I started college about what do I want to do the rest of my life in terms of like career. Like, do I want just a job that make money and not think too deeply about it, or can I find a career that I'm deeply happy in, or will I have to compromise both? Or it made me think about that, and I don't think I will have to compromise either too much. I think I should be able to at least make a stable enough living doing what I enjoy if I really put my mind to it. I think you helped me see that as well. And yeah, I would say maybe it's those experiences and that, and lastly just working really hard in college. Like, I didn't think I was going to be able to double major, and being able to kind of showed me that I have a lot more in me than I thought, and I can always keep pushing for more for myself, that's possible. I would say these are the kinds of, I know those weren't too specific memories, but they're just things I think of, lessons that I learned for myself through the different through different experiences. Yeah.
Thinking about your double major, all the work that you put in to study and balance your lifestyle, how did your perspectives change from before you started studying compared to after finishing?
I think my perspective changed in that I realized that everything is both more attainable and unattainable in a sense. Like, it both, having to go through all this did really it gave me a reality check in a sense that, even what I thought was the easy route of just getting a job and being on autopilot and not thinking about money or career satisfaction, even that's not necessarily easy or handed to you, like even if it's the quote unquote easy path. So I realized that, nothing's all that easily attainable. But then I also realized that because I work so hard, I realized that doesn't mean that the things that I want aren't attainable, but they're just going to take way more work than I realized. And especially since I didn't grow up super, or wasn't born into immense wealth and privilege, like it's always going to be an uphill battle to get anything good, I would say, in life. Like, you know, any good job, career, anything. It's always going to take a little bit more effort to see friends and family and make time for them than maybe for somebody who has all the infinite resources. I'm not saying that they have an entirely easy life, but I do think that that helps a lot when you can be born into wealth and privilege. But, you know, I can still get there. That's another lesson I learned. It'll just be hard.
Now, if you could say that you do one thing better than everyone else around you, what would you say that one thing is?
I won't dwell on the question too much because I always want to preface and be like, no, I think there's plenty of people around me who do really good at this too. And that's still totally true, but I don't want to harp on that too much because I kind of get the point of what you're asking. But if there's something that I guess I would say I pride myself on, it's on being just, I guess it's not one thing. Let me try to make it one thing though. Let me think. I was going to say very thorough, but maybe it's just really caring, thorough and caring. I know that's not necessarily one thing, but in my head, I just want to say both because I feel like they go hand in hand. It's like I'm not just thorough, but there's like a caring, compassionate aspect of being thorough is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, like with everything, with my job right now, it's like a customer service job or hospitality. It's like very thorough with customers, but there's like a compassion side to it where I want them to have the best time possible. I want to just make everyone who walks in the room feel a little happier if I can. And then I just want to make all my friends feel a little happier with the conversation we have. And I really try to get to know them and like just have a chance to have a good conversation with them, you know? And same thing with like, yeah, with my schoolwork. It's like I do as much as I can, definitely past the bare minimum, but put in max effort and maybe a little beyond that. But not just blindly. There's a compassion side of it. Like I want to show that I care about the work that I'm doing. Like schoolwork, anything. So yeah, that's what I would say. I would say I'm just a very thorough person with everything I do. Again, with the side of with a very compassionate component to it.
So, keeping all that in mind, especially like on the compassionate side, what were the baby steps that you took to become that more compassionate person compared to falling down a more bitter route?
I think the baby steps I take are, for one, just feeling my emotions. Like I would say high school teen angst was probably when it peaked, like at like 16 or something, and I just let myself feel my emotions because it's kind of like people say there's no way around certain hard feelings, like teen angst, for example. You just kind of have to go through it. But then as I've gotten older, that stuff is a component of it, but I think as I've gotten older, it's just talking to people, like talking to friends, opening up to someone, anyone about how I feel can be really helpful. I'm lucky that I have any good friends to talk to, but yeah, just talking to people if possible about a situation can always really help to help me, yeah, kind of work through my feelings. Sorry, I'm like completely blanking on the question because I want to bring it around to the point. Was the question just, baby steps towards being really thorough specifically? Yeah, so towards being thorough. I think it plays a hand in that because if I'm not feeling good emotionally, if I'm tired or I feel like what I'm doing is pointless, then I won't be thorough. I think the best way through that is to feel those feelings, but then eventually reel it back in and not wallow in those feelings and remind myself, like I have to ask myself what the point is. I can't look for signs from the world. I have to ask the questions myself and give myself an answer about what the meaning is. And then again, as I said, talk to friends if I can or something, or family or whoever, or write it down or watch a movie. That helps too sometimes. I really like movies, so sometimes watching movies can be a nice way to feel like I can relate to like a character who's going something similar, and that helps me also see the reason in what I'm doing, which helps me see the reason in what I'm doing. Yeah, talking to friends and feeling these emotions helps me see the reason what I'm doing, which helps me be thorough and compassionate.
I guess the last thing that I'd like to ask,
Yeah.
Keeping in mind that compassion that you've developed and these different routes that you've used to help keep yourself and your mind stable, calm, and steady. What lesson do you think you've learned from all your experience that you use on a daily basis?
The lesson I would say I learned, I feel like it's kind of similar to what I've kind of been talking about. Like there's like a through line, so I don't want it to be too boring, but I just think you have to give it your all, which is basically being thorough, which is why I say it's being boring, but I think you have to give everything your all, because if you don't, you'll never really know. And it's hard to do that. I can say that from personal experience too, from work and school and everything. It's hard to give it your all, and I don't know, I may have fallen short. It's not like I always got a perfect score on every exam or anything, but I just think you have to do as much as you can for something, because at the very least you'll know that you did everything you could and you tried. And I think that's the biggest lesson I learned, is that, like, that's what I'm kind of going through applying to grad schools right now, and I've been taking classes and working really hard on studying for exams for grad school and everything, and it's like, well, why am I doing all this? It's because it may or may not help me get a really good shot at getting into a grad school. I don't even know if it will necessarily, or any of it will matter in the end, but at least I'll know I tried everything I possibly could. And I think you could carry that over to everything in life, like relationships, family, anything at all.
Then with that, I want to thank you for sharing not just your experience, but also the wisdoms that you've gained and how you've been able to develop yourself into who you are.
Likewise, I'm grateful for your time, and I appreciate it also. This was really fun. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.